Let me ask this question. What do colored people now hope to gain by pressing the segregation fight at this time? What immediate results do you hope to achieve?
Well, we hope to achieve equal rights of any human being deserving. That's what we are working for.
On the 5th of December in 1955, a Negro woman was arrested, Mrs. Rosa Parks, for refusing to give up her seat for a boarding white male passenger.
What do you think the prospects are for achieving that goal?
I think we'll be successful if we continue.
How long do you think it would take?
I have no idea how long.
The city seems to be teeming with people, and many visitors are coming in on aircraft every day. Our athletes seem to be in top form, and I think we should have a lot of good luck.
The 18-year-old Cassius Clay was immersed in newfound fame and glory. In Rome, he was celebrated. He had won the gold medal after a well-fought amateur career of 108 fights, 6 wins at the Kentucky Golden Gloves Championships, 2 National Golden Gloves Championships, and 2 National Amateur Athletic Union titles. Around Olympic peers, he was a prospect like no other. Young, handsome, and gifted, his aura was beginning to get realized.
Hey, tell me how you came to get such a Roman name as that.
Well, as I understand, I'm Cassius Marcellus Clay VI, and my great-great-grandfather was a Kentucky slave, and he was named after some great Kentuckian. Well, Cassius Marcellus Clay is a great name in Kentucky. And really, where he was from or where it was all originated, I couldn't tell you, but since I've reached a little fame in boxing, most people want to know where am I from and where did I get that name, but really I haven't really checked on it, so I see that I'm going to have to go look into
You'll have to look it up.
See what it's all about now that I'm getting a little interviews. Yeah.
How did you come to take up boxing?
Well, I started about 6 years ago. My bicycle was stolen, and my cousin was a boxer. He wasn't too successful, but he boxed, and he told me that he would train me if I ever catch the guy that, you know how kids think, if I ever caught the guy that stole my bicycle, well, he would, I would know how to fight, you know, I could defend myself. Well, anyway, he took me to the gym, and he quit later, but I kept it up.
Did you catch the guy who stole your bike?
I never did.
You still looking for him?
No, not now. I was just kids.
But when the Olympian returned to Kentucky, he was refused from a bar.
We have this illegal, unconstitutional injunction. All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. Because somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest for a right.
After all he had achieved, the young Cassius was enraged, throwing his gold medal into the Ohio River. Cassius's first interaction with a black public speaker was in Harlem. He and a few Olympic athletes were invited out by sports presenter Dick Shep. On the corner of 7th Avenue of 125th Street was a man standing upon a soapbox. His message was about buying black to support black capitalism and businesses. From this point on, Cassius was entranced. To challenge the status quo was a fire lit by the newfound Congress of Racial Equality in 1942, inspired by black nationalist movements and the nonviolent protests of Mahatma Gandhi 30 years prior. In 1961, due to racial segregation on interstate transportation and public accommodations, over 436 individuals participated in 60 separate freedom rides from May to December. Progressively, more black people would become active in the movement against Jim Crow laws, which prohibited intermarriage and denied suffrage. In the media, very little was mentioned about the rise of homelessness, violence, and drugs in urban America. The depth at which black segregation was maintained by institutional arrangements was nothing short of inhuman.
I was frightened that morning. But I learned a great deal about people. Not only about the people who were there, but about the people who were not there. Like the politician who encouraged the mob. Like the thousands who suffered with me and wrote to me to tell me so. While I waited, I heard brave voices speak out against intolerance, and I saw grown men turn their heads in shame from the camera.
Gordon Parks, a black photographer born in Kansas, was raised under the totality of the white state, losing siblings, shot and stabbed by corrupt police officers. With a passion for music and film, Gordon found his way to college to study in fine arts against the desires of his father and teachers. It was considered a rarity, an ill recommendation for an African American to express their voice. Gordon had discovered the power of still imagery on a whim, buying a Voigtlander Brilliant after witnessing the bombing of USS Panay on film. The photographer Norman Alley presented Gordon with newfound inspiration to capture moments in time, but with an introspective, sensitive viewpoint, as though the poems of Langston Hughes were flowing from the frame. Gordon's work would be recognized in Chicago. A series of photos on poverty won Gordon the Rosenwald Fellowship, with his work acting to inform the U.S. public of the conditions surrounding the Great Depression. His desire to capture the tonality of black livelihood in the media was not only informative, it was necessary.
I wouldn't want any kid to suffer what I suffered in the early days of my life back in the state of Kansas.
Because of racism and poverty.
Racism and bigotry, poverty. I wouldn't want any kid to suffer what I suffered. But yet and still, I have no regrets for what I suffered, because whatever I suffered has made me whatever I've become.
In his early years, Gordon Parks found himself working for Vogue and then capturing crime across the U.S. for Life magazine. In his haunting yet beautiful images, the classism was made abundantly clear. Black people were fundamentally trapped within a housing market nowhere near the standard of any other American urbanite. The contrast in his photography depicted spatial isolation and imbalance. This restraint was even clear in consumer products, in shops, and job opportunities.
kite to Washington. We got to get where we are going. Travel day and night for President. Adelaide go the other way. We'll all go with I. President. You like kite, I like kite. Everybody likes kite for President. Hang out the banner, beat the drum. We'll take kite to Washington. We'll take kite to Washington.
Now is the time for all good Americans to come to the aid of their country.
I don't think there's any gradual coming together. There may be a gradual coming together at the top. A few hand-picked, upper-crust, bourgeois Negroes are coming together with the so-called liberal element in the white community. But at the mass level, I don't think there's any real, honest, sincere coming together. If there's anything, there's a widening of the gap.
The state of living was unbearable. From public lynching to the lack of human rights, the African American community were growing restless under their inhumane treatment. In 1962, Cassius was contacted by Sam Saxon, a member of the Nation of Islam. The two went to watch Elijah Muhammad speak for the first time at a rally in Detroit, Michigan. Just prior to the rally, Sam took Cassius to be introduced to Malcolm X, the minister of New York City's Mosque No. 7.
One of the signs that manifests the wrath of God today against America and against the white world, period, is the upset in nature. Everything that America tries to do today, wherein once you were successful in all of your efforts, all of your endeavors were successful. Anything that Uncle Sam put his hand on turned to gold. Everyone bowed to Uncle Sam. Everyone respected Uncle Sam. But not because I say so, but for facts. Today, the shoe is on the other foot. The whole world is turning its back on Uncle Sam. The whole world is looking down on Uncle Sam. The whole world looks at Uncle Sam with contempt and with increasing hatred. Why? Because Uncle Sam is the earth's leading hypocrite. The number one hypocrite on this earth is Uncle Sam.
Malcolm X was a giant in both his presence and vocal power. The rise of civil rights activists was needed to merge the racial gap within politics, much as what Cassius was aiming to achieve in sport. The black neighborhoods formed self-feeding spirals which refrained from outside interaction. However, protests would disturb the United States, causing economic dislocations and rendering the black communities impoverished and geographically isolated. This was known as the Dark Ghetto, invisible walls which were built by the white powers, subjugating those who remained trapped within. Malcolm X's international exposure rose after demonstrating himself as a prominent member of the Islamic religion. Self-taught in prison, Malcolm underwent a tumultuous childhood. His house had been burned down by the Black Legion, a subsidiary group of the KKK. His father, Earl Little, was killed by a Lansing streetcar, dragged into a passing train. To the speculation of many, including his family, Earl was assumed to be murdered by the white racists. Malcolm's mother, Louise Little, was placed in a mental institution shortly thereafter. Malcolm would be relocated to Harlem, delving into a life of crime, disregarding his prior ambitions of becoming a lawyer, which was scoffed at by his white teacher. Malcolm, uninvolved with sports, was unaware of Cassius Clay. Nonetheless, the sprightly up-and-coming boxer made a strong impression. Though Cassius was initially rejected from joining the Nation of Islam due to his involvement in boxing, Malcolm was keen that Cassius could become something more, a figure emblematic of the fight to end racial segregation. Malcolm would begin to show Cassius the power of public speech and the desire to make socioeconomic change. The two became closely knit, conjoined by the words of Elijah Muhammad, separation or death. Malcolm continued to host civil rallies, and his presence would steadily unfold in the media. Malcolm acted as a teacher to Cassius. He advocated self-defense, which differed from the philosophy of Martin Luther King, and even more so, Elijah Muhammad. Tension was beginning to form between the Nation of Islam and Malcolm X, whose desire it was to alter the political direction and become more active in protesting the civil rights movement.
Oh, Henry Cooper's nothing but a tramp. He's a bum. I'm the world's greatest. He must fall in 5 rounds, but if you talk about me, I'll cut it 3.
Your prediction about Doug Jones didn't go quite right, though.
Well, Doug Jones was a little tougher than I thought he was, but I'll never fight another fella as tough as Doug Jones, not even that big ugly bear, Sonny Liston.
Is he your next fight?
Well, after I annihilate this Henry Cooper, I want that bear.
And what's going to happen to him?
I want him bad.
What's going to happen to him?
He might be great, but he'll fall in 8.
Cassius Marcellus Clay, the champ, aged 24, in his own view the greatest and the prettiest, but as others see him, the loudest and the brashest, arrogant, boastful, sometimes hysterical. Cooper's training is uncluttered by personal problems of that sort, but he has others to contend with against a man who's 8 years younger, faster, and has the advantage of height and reach. In Wembley, North London this week, an unworried Henry Cooper left his trim suburban home for his training headquarters in Welling, Kent, away from what manager Wicks calls domestic distractions.
When you go into the ring this time with Cassius Clay, what will your attitude to him be? Will he be just another opponent, or will you work up some sort of hate relationship?
No, I mean, I don't think any fighter goes in the ring really hating another fighter. No, I just go in there thinking it's a job of work to do, right? He's another fighter to me. I won't be saying to me, oh, he's world champion, what have I got to do to beat this guy? I should be trying to treat it just as a normal fight.
If Cooper beats me, I will retire. If Cooper goes over 5 rounds, I won't return to the United States for 90 days.
Why not?
Because I talk too much.
Baby, I can't make a move like a child, a star for love. I'll stay there as long as I have to. I'll cry a river of tears that flows to the sea. Baby, if you run away, baby, if you leave, in love with you, girl. You make me feel brand new. Come on, give it up to me. Let me take care of you.
When we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God.
Baby, if you run away, baby, if you leave.
And Cassius Clay, the gimmick man to the last, comes into the ring with this monster crown on his head and all the way down to the ringside. Cooper 6'1½". Cooper's right hand, the first time. Of course, Cooper's eye is really in an absolutely appalling state. There was no alternative. He had to stop the fight, Tommy Little. It's all over.
It was only after I became a life photographer that I knew that I must assume the responsibility that it would take to consider myself an excellent photographer so that I could open the door for other black writers and photographers after me.
In 1963, Gordon Parks met Malcolm X as Malcolm was presenting a fiery speech in Harlem. Gordon was captivated. After introducing himself, Gordon Parks would find out that Malcolm already knew of Gordon's contributions to the media. His ability to exhibit and expose the Black community to the mainstream would be a significant asset to Malcolm. Malcolm invited Parks for a special meeting with Elijah Muhammad. Parks, after discussing the idea of a film influenced by Elijah, also provided the opportunity for an article commissioned by Life magazine depicting Black Muslims. The photographer acted as both an insider and an outsider, a representative of the Black community, and a successful worker in the white world. The pilot announced our position over Chicago, and I looked down, thinking of the 3 years I had lived in the infamous Black Belt of that city. Mostly I remembered the hopelessness that seeped into the Black souls of that jungle. Now, from this height, Chicago shone clean in the afternoon sunlight, but I knew that, within the brightness below, torment and suffering filled the lives of thousands. In addition to piercing portraits of Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad, the story also featured one of Gordon Parks' masterpieces, a photograph of Muslim sister Ethel Sharif in Chicago. Malcolm X had befriended Gordon. Though actively supporting the civil rights movement, Gordon would state his dismissal of violent means to an end. He would poignantly state that the country could not be so easily split between black and white, and so he could not proceed any further to support the divisive political and cultural goals set by the Nation of Islam.
I saw in 1960 when I turned professional that I had a hard way to go to beat all the top contenders, so I had to overshadow them, predicting and been blessed and successful enough to fulfill my predictions, and calling the rounds and writing poems and weigh-in disturbances and challenging my opponent on the street, and this was controversial and it was colorful, and I overshadowed all the contenders, and the promoters are the ones who promote the fights and who put up the money. Well, I was a bigger draw than Eddie Machen at the time, than many top contenders, so this threw me right into the championship fight.
Earlier, he had received a tumultuous reception in Fort Worth. Now, more thousands are waiting to greet him in downtown Dallas. But death is less than 1 short hour away. A dark page in the annals of America has been written to the crack of an assassin's bullet. A nation mourns, the world grieves. The man who became 35th president less than 3 years ago is dead. The crowd almost muffled the 3 shots. The assassin's aim is deadly. The area is aswarm with police, rangers, and Secret Service men. The murderer slips the net, but a few blocks away, a man is captured after he is reported to have killed a policeman. That man is a 24-year-old pro-Castro Texan who once sought Soviet citizenship. He is charged with murder.
Already the traditional resentment of Southern labor at working side by side with the Negro is diminishing, and in its place is evolving a new measure of cooperation, an increasing sense that keeping the Negro in poverty is helping to keep the South in poverty.
Malcolm X, you were involved in a controversy some months ago with your leader. Is that over?
Well, I've been silent for the past 90 days because of some statements I made concerning the President of the United States, which were distorted.
They were distorted?
And yes.
What did you say, Malcolm?
Well, I said the same thing that everybody says, that his assassination was the result of the climate of hate. But only I said the chickens came home to roost, and which means the same thing.
Malcolm X's remarks on the late President John F. Kennedy resulted in the leader of the Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad, suspending Malcolm from public speech for 90 days. The damage had been done. Malcolm had begun to create a rift between him and his leader.
Would you fight Floyd Patterson for charity?
Floyd Patterson's a sissy. I done knocked that out of my mind. He ain't nothing but a chump. If he go back, let him go back and fight Sonny Liston. If he can last 2 rounds, again, if he can answer the bell for the second time with Liston, then he might deserve a shot at me. I'm the king.
Floyd thinks he can beat you.
Floyd dreamed he beat me, he'd apologize.
The world heavyweight champion, Sonny Liston, was a dangerous and formidable opponent. In the lead-up to the fight, Cassius was met with scrutiny due to his outspoken nature and passion for the Nation of Islam, though he wasn't yet a member. Malcolm X would step in prior to the match, condoning his friend to the media. However, Malcolm was asked to be removed, and Cassius was told to keep his religion and philosophies to himself. Cassius was a dark horse in the boxing scene, and with potentially the most dangerous fight of his life on approach, he needed to overcome his emotions and go to war in the ring.
I'll win him. Well, it all depends, you see. If you go to his gym, you have to say he wins. And if you go to Liston's gym, you say Liston will win. Yeah. The big lad, Jim will win.
I think Liston will win, but Cassius Clay is a good singer.
He's a good singer.
He told us, yeah, he's Chubby Checker's cousin.
He made up a poem as well.
Yeah.
This one of the things that have been reported over here in the British Embassy. What actually happened in Washington at this place?
Well, we just sort of went.
Okay.
Well, were you impressed?
Yeah, he looked very good.
Have you ever seen him before?
No,
You've never seen him in action before. No. Have you got any young heavyweights over there who are promising?
Yeah, Cassius Clay. He promised me a fight with him.
There aren't many people who could do this to the greatest. But this was one of the closest relationships in the history of boxing. So when Angelo told Ali to do something, there wasn't usually much of an argument.
Cassius Clay, Sonny the champion, Cassius the challenger. Cassius Clay on the move as we see, looking to get Sonny to love it. Cassius Clay still with the faster hand. Seconds to go in the 6th round. They might be stopping it. That might be all, ladies and gentlemen. Get up there, Joe. Get up there. Get up in the ring.
The newly reigning heavyweight champion was not only an impeccable fighter, but an individual who stood for something greater. He had a slick mouth and a philosophical mind. Audiences were not only entertained by him, they were in awe.
Well, my main plan is to hit and not be hit.
So you're going to move as fast as ever, are you?
Right.
Are you really fit?
We'll see tonight.
And Brian, any last-minute predictions? Never give a prediction in 49 professional fights, no. How are you going to... Have you got any plan for the fight?
I've got my own plans, yes, which I'll keep to myself until I get in there.
Do you think you can catch him?
I'm hoping so. That's what I'm in there for, to try and do.
And how long do you think it'll go?
Well, as long as it takes me to catch him.
For real, I don't believe that the man to beat me haven't been born yet. I'll be champion. I can stay in the ring 10 more years, easy, I figure.
It was here in Miami that Clay took the world title 2 years ago from the aging Sonny Liston, who quit after 6 rounds. Last May, they met again, and Liston was flattened in 60 seconds to shouts of fix, fake, and fraud. After that, some said professional boxing was slipping into its grave. Others claim that Clay's own behaviour since then has done little to pull it back. His ranting and raving, his association with extremist Negroes, and his attitude to military service have all made him unpopular. He is hero now to few.
Cassius had become something more. Malcolm had introduced Cassius to African diplomats. Together, they wanted to do something drastic in order to restore racial pride to the world. Malcolm was like a brother to Cassius, but after a phone call with Elijah Muhammad, everything would change.
Why do you insist on being called Muhammad Ali now?
That's the name given to me by my leading teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's my original name. That's a black man name. Cassius Clay was my slave name. I'm no longer a slave.
What does it mean?
Muhammad means worthy of all praises, and Ali means most high.
Cassius had been instructed to no longer associate with Malcolm X and to become the new most trusted figurehead of the Nation of Islam. As a result, Cassius's name had been changed to Muhammad Ali, but his relationship with the man who had taught him how to express his identity was lost.
Yes, sir. I want to be called by that name. I write autographs with that name. I want to be known all over the world as that name.
What attracted you then to Islam?
There's been great publicity given to the fact that heavyweight champion Cassius Clay is one of your followers. Do you think he's a sincere follower?
Well, Cassius is following Elijah Muhammad, and I'm no longer a follower of Elijah Muhammad myself. I do believe that Cassius is sincere in what he has been doing. I was with him during the 9 days, I think, when he was training for the list and fight, and he seemed very sincere. Whether he has understanding to equal his sincerity is another thing.
Why did you fall out with Elijah Muhammad?
Well, some internal disagreements and differences that I would rather not go into, but I think that they will come out in public before long.
These were personal differences?
Well, for one thing, I believe in the religion of Islam, and I went to Mecca recently to get a better understanding of it, and I think that the black Muslim movement itself, if it doesn't adopt the Sunni practice of Islam, the orthodox practice of Islam, that it will disintegrate and fall apart.
Ali was faced with scrutiny from the press. His name change was polarizing and considered offensive and distasteful. Malcolm returned home to his family, having lost not only the support from his leader, but his friend. Malcolm X, who was still set on his goals, founded the Islamic Muslim Mosque Incorporated and the Pan-American Organization of African American Unity. His desire to heighten the political consciousness had intensified his relationship with the Nation of Islam. After disclosing sexual misbehaviors from his previous teacher, Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm received death threats. Many believed Malcolm had no right to expose the personal life of the leader who took him in. An explosive device was found under his car, which was a clear indicator of an assassination attempt. 2 days later, on the 21st, February 1965, he was killed, gunned down in the Audubon Ballroom by 3 members of the Nation of Islam. The death of Malcolm X shocked the world. He was a figure who had acted without fear. In doing so, his ability to capture the flawed nature of society and discrimination would survive to this day.
Now, we have 2 psychological battles that we're fighting against white folk. We won one. They told us that we should hate Malcolm X. We dumped that, thank God.
Now is the time to cure the cancer of racial segregation. Now is the time to get rid of the slums and ghettos of Chicago. Now is the time to make justice a reality all over this nation. Now is the time.
I wish I'd been able to tell Malcolm I was sorry, that he was right about so many things, but he was killed before I got the chance. The 1960s was an outpour of protests and counterculture, and Gordon captured all of it. As a photographer, Gordon Parks also advocated for a tangible change in society. It was in 1966 that Gordon and Muhammad Ali's paths would finally cross. Parks met Ali in Miami, where the champ was training. Accompanying him to London for his next fight, Parks crafted a psychological portrait of Ali that most Americans might never have imagined. The article in Life magazine was massively popular. It included anecdotes of Ali's personal concerns and emotions, presenting him as a gentle presence, unlike what Ali himself would demonstrate with his bravado he had adopted from Gorgeous George, a wrestler who Ali had met in Las Vegas. The contained approach to Ali's demeanor only added to his popularity, especially with the African Americans who lionized the outspoken boxer. This set the beginning with Ali's long and trusting relationship with the photographer. The two, poets, both by way of speech and visual arts.
Nine top Negro athletes meet with Cassius Clay to discuss his anti-draft stand. They include Bill Russell, Lou Alcindor, and former pro footballer Jimmy Brown. Says Brown after the meeting, the champ is sincere in his religious beliefs. He believes in his religion, and his stand is based wholly on that. Clay's induction refusal cost him his title.
The usual tents, the usual equipment, the usual layout. But here, too, is the unusual. For here begins a 4-phase training program that gives the soldier his baptism of fire before he engages with the enemy.
Close heavyweight champion Cassius Clay at a federal court in Houston is found guilty of violating the U.S. Selective Service laws by refusing to be inducted. He is sentenced to 5 years in prison and fined $10,000, the maximum penalty for the offense, which is a felony. The sentence was appealed by Clay's lawyers. Clay contended his status as a black Muslim minister made him exempt from the draft. Released on bail, he faces a possible 18-month wait for an appeal decision. Before the parade, mass draft card burning was urged. Demonstrators claimed 200 cards were burned, but no accurate count could be determined. Reporters and onlookers were jostled away on purpose. Although mostly peaceful, shouted confrontations were frequent and fiery during the course of the march. The anti-war marchers were picketed by anti-war marchers who were hawkish toward the parading doves. Police arrested 5 persons as disorderly. 3 were grabbed when they rushed the parade float. No serious injuries, however, in New York's biggest anti-war march. Civil rights leader Martin Luther King leads the procession to the United Nations, where he urges UN pressure to force the U.S. to stop bombing North Vietnam.
In 1968, the Civil Rights Act was passed by Congress, closely following the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. Though appearing like a promising change at first, the Fair Housing and Workers Act was inherently flawed due to sellers' and hirers' continued racial bias. The act itself did, however, provide a sweeping change for the social climate. Luckily, Ali was able to avoid prison time whilst appealing the decision in the Supreme Court. But it was clear to see that the public had lost 3 years, which may have been Ali's prime fighting condition. 3 years that were stolen from him, and he was hungry to make them up as fast as possible.
Know much about fighting, so therefore she don't worry. If she knew how rough it was, she would worry. She stays at the hotel. She never comes to the fight. She just waits for me to come home.
Well, would you have a son of yours going to the fight game?
No, man. I have a son now, 6 weeks old. My son's going to go to school, learn 3 or 4 languages, be a scientist, be a doctor, be a lawyer, use his brains, not his fists. So I don't go for that boxing. It's too rough. Very few can be as great as I am.
The 1970s marked the start of a new era. The post-civil rights movement had begun. During this decade, Black people made great strides in politics, academics, as well as business. Slowly but surely, change was being made. However, racial discrimination, as predicted, would not see signs of slowing down. In this period, Ali made his return to the ring against Jerry Quarry, who was rated by Ring magazine as the most popular boxer at the time. Ali brought his A game on return, stopping Jerry in the 3rd round.
You need a necktie or a suit or an appointment.
And he settles down to the job then.
Right, so I'm in office now. I'm the heavyweight champion of the world, and I don't have to talk no more and say I'm the greatest because people tell me I'm the greatest.
Well, I'm not looking to fight George Foreman. They all need to fight me. I'm an established fighter, and I draw more and more demand. The people's champion, they say. And Foreman is a good fighter, but he beat a Frazier that I softened up for him. He hasn't yet proved himself qualified to fight the likes of me. He went a round and a half with a out of shape, seemed to be off timing Joe Frazier. And so I'm not thinking about it. I don't need him.
Don King, one of the most prominent sports promoters of the time, had breathed life into this highly anticipated fight. He was charismatic as he was controversial. The stakes and excitement was raised any time he talked to the media. When financial backers proved difficult to enlist, King sought out Zaire's dictator, Mobutu Sese Seko, who agreed to put up the money from his country's treasury. Mobutu saw the match as a way of generating positive publicity about Zaire, and should the fight be successful, it would catapult King to new career heights. Ali's visit to Zaire for his fight against George Foreman would become one of the most significant bouts in boxing history. The arrival of the two fighters in Africa caused an outpour of emotion for both parties. Foreman, who was 25 at the time, seemingly had the upper hand. He was surprisingly light on his feet, possessed humongous punching power, and was training in order to corner Ali, cutting off the ring with his sparring partners.
It's crazy talk. You done caused all these people losing their money. Talking about how big George Foreman is, how terrible, I'm scared for my life, how relentless he is. That sucker ain't nothing.
Ali, on the other hand, now 32 years of age, was portraying his usual demeanor. The bout would take place at 4 a.m. in Zaire, just so it could be broadcasted in America at a reasonable time. Night had fallen a long time ago, but the energy in the crowd could not be higher. Instead of leading his jab and dancing around the ring, as Ali promised he would, he changed his plan entirely. Instead, he utilized his right lead hand, a shot many, including Foreman, would have considered not only amateurish, but downright disrespectful. And yet, they were landing. Ali was on the aggression. Foreman retaliated quickly. By the end of the first round, Ali appeared intimidated. His team were fearing for their prized fighter's life. Even in the changing rooms, a dark aura surrounded them. Not to be punished, Ali rose again and executed one of the most unexpected techniques one might choose against one of the hardest hitters in heavyweight history, the rope-a-dope. Ali's victory reverberated around the world. The people of Zaire gravitated towards Ali as though he derived from myth or legend. The United States was astounded by the war which had taken place. For one man to return from so much controversy and recapture the hearts of civilization was nothing short of a miracle. Ali had transcended. He was no longer just a boxer. From his audacious preaching and poetry to his charm and philosophical perspective, the man had become a symbol, not only for African Americas, but for the unification of humanity.
I'll be pecking and a-poking, pouring water on his smoking. And this might shock and amaze you, but I will destroy Joe Frazier.
Gordon Parks took a hiatus from photography to focus on filmmaking. His first piece was an anecdotal feature based on his own childhood, The Learning Tree.
His music, like the music you're hearing, has been performed by symphony orchestras in New York, Philadelphia, Venice, and Munich. His books have been published in 9 languages. The 15th and youngest child of a Kansas farmer, he told of how it was growing up in his best-selling novel, The Learning Tree.
Soon after, in 1971, Gordon would be the pioneer of the blaxploitation subgenre with the release of the hit movie Shaft.
Up yours! Get out of the way!
Gordon's thought-provoking imagery opened the door for new African-American artists. His work, both in film, photography, and music, had become a cultural phenomenon, a catalyst, inspiring artists to this day. The patterns of racial equality protests are dishearteningly similar to what had been witnessed in the past. Parks revolutionized the scholarship around Black photography and demonstrated the transformative power of protest images. Such images are still taken today by those who see Parks as an inspiration, to document moments in time as a means to an end, to avoid regression and highlight the problems in the world. Muhammad Ali was a figurehead for colored representation in sport. When he spoke, people would listen. When he fought, everyone would watch. He was a master both inside and outside the ring. Ali retired in 1981 after suffering 2 more defeats from Holmes and Trevor Berbick, 2 fights many agree should never have happened. It was clear the boxer had slowed down exponentially. Many began to notice a slight slur in his speech patterns, and in 1984, Ali would publicly announce his diagnosis of Parkinson's disease.
Tourists from out of town are arriving at Ali's modest childhood home.
Act like you dodging them. You know how you do.
And even locals are taking photographs. A sense of pride, very evident.
He's from right here. He's not from Chicago. He's not from Harlem, New York. He's not from Miami. He's from Louisville, Kentucky, 32nd and Grand Street, right here.
How proud does that make you feel?
Stick my chest out. Make me feel good.
He didn't forget his town, and he would reach back and help others. He tried to help others, pull others up.
I remember he was very sweet, kind, loving, considerate, wonderful, sweet, nice person. He never talked bad about anybody. He loved people. Black, white, yellow, he loved all people. Hate nobody. He's kind and giving, loving. I always remember his love and his affection for me. I always remember that. Never forget it. I can't wait to see him in paradise, in heaven. Get to heaven with joy and be happy with God.
He really did give everybody the feeling of anything's possible and you can achieve anything you want. Being a black man in the 60s, in America, in the South, it's a tough place to be, it's a tough place to live. And as you said, he owned it. He said and did things that most people would be worried about getting lynched for at that time. And he did it on such a big scale, on such a big stage that you had to take notice of him. He became bigger than the sport, and he backed it up. He used to predict what round he'd win in. You know, when people would when black people at the time were just happy to earn a buck and keep the head down and just stay under the radar, he was way above the radar. He was really letting people know what he's going to be known as the greatest. He is the greatest. He's the prettiest. He's the fastest.
Well, you know, in my view, it's probably more how brash he was, how charismatic, you know, how playful he was with such a serious endeavor. And, you know, that's really what stood out over and above everything, effectively, and in so doing became, you know, the most talked about sportsman in the history of sport. You know, you would speak about him in the same sentence as Malcolm X, as Martin Luther King. You would do, you have to, because he was the beacon, you know, certainly for people who were not going to go into education or, you know, challenge a system that was wrong. You know, he was the man of the people, he was the working class. And if he could do what he was doing, then why shouldn't anybody be able to do what they want to do? So he was an inspiration for the common man.
Changing the world and the lives of those in it was the legacy of these great figureheads. Fearlessly, they challenged the status quo, broke conventions, and remained true to their ideals until the very end. From politics to art to sport, a contribution can be made in every facet of life. These figureheads saw hope in the future and worked their way towards it. They reflected and shaped the social and political climate of the age they were active. To focus on the present and future is paramount, but one must always remember to not forget the past.
I would investigate, then probably been bigger than a plane. Keep your eyes